Hello and welcome to Clearview Television News. First, the headlines. In the news, despite warnings from the police, organizers of Revolution Now protest go ahead with march across a few major Nigerian cities against social injustice and national insecurity. Kaduna High Court grants leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife Zinat bail on medical grounds. President Donald Trump says hate has no place in the United States as 29 people are confirmed killed in 2 separate mass shootings. I am Prudence Okonna with the details of these and more. Despite the heavy rainfall in Abuja, Revolution Now activists on Monday stormed the National Human Rights Commission headquarters in Maitama, district of Abuja City, to protest against the poor security situation and other social issues in the country. The protesters had planned to hold a rally at the Unity Fountain but were forced to change the venue following the lockdown of the park by armed policemen. Protesters delivered a letter to the National Human Rights Commission in which they expressed their displeasure over what they call the continued silence of the Commission over the undemocratic incidences in the country. Coordinator of the protest, Daria Toye Ariyo, said the ever-growing proclivity of the President Buhari-led regime for human rights abuses are indicative of a complete departure of all democratic tenets, norms and practices. He pointed to the arrest of the Revolution Now protest convener Omoyele Sowore by the Department of State Services, describing it as undemocratic and disgraceful for a country like Nigeria that practices constitutional democracy. And scores of protesters under the aegis of Revolution Now protests were Monday dispersed with tear gas from the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos State, by officers of Nigeria Police. The security operatives also arrested no fewer than 10 persons, including a journalist, Victor Lugbenro. The protest started as planned but was disrupted by the combined team of law enforcement agencies that also dispersed the protesters with pepper spray. And still on that, armed police personnel and operatives of the Department of State Security, DSS, on Monday stopped members of Revolution Now group from taking their protest to the streets of Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. The protesters, led by Olawale Adebayo, had earlier addressed newsmen in Fagbewesha area of Oshogbo. Shortly after, the protesters who were about leaving for the Olaiya Junction to kickstart the protest were stopped by a combined team of armed policemen and DSS operatives. And still on the arrest of the activist, publisher and politician Omoyele Sowore by officials of Department of State Services, more reactions have continued nationwide. In Ondo State, the 2 major political parties are expressing different views over the arrest, as the Revolution Now protest did not hold.
Security operatives, however, manned strategic locations across the state. According to the National Vice Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP in the Southwest, Eddie Olafeso, the arrest of Sowore and maltreatment of supporters of the revolution was uncalled for.
It's obvious now that individual rights and freedom are being contained. People are being clammed into jail like he did the first time he came in 1984. It's so unfortunate that despite our earlier, warnings to the Nigerian people, this is happening. So I think we must tell all Nigerians that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance, and we must do everything possible to secure our democracy. What is wrong in protesting? Did you not see it in Hong Kong? Have you not seen other parts of the world where people say this is not right and they're protesting? So now, because he won, he had to wait until Nigeria is destroyed in the next 4 years.
But the Ondo State chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Ade Adetimehin, and a human rights activist, Doyin Odebowale, expressed different views. They say the step will prevent anarchy in the country.
When there are challenges, when there are security threatened, the security cannot fold their arms. They should do their job. That's what they are doing. You as journalists, you are doing your job by talking to me, by interviewing me, by me talking to you. There's a division of labor. Everybody will do their job. But we must maintain peace and decorum.
Sowore cannot be the problem. He cannot be. You can rein him in. If he wants to go overboard, you check him, you check me, and that is what they have done. So nobody should blame the SSS for arresting him. If you are calling for revolution and you are doing it simultaneously in all the states of the federation, you want to overthrow the government. Sowore should be released. Let nobody let him be released. He has made his points.
The DSS said Sowore was arrested for threatening public safety, peaceful coexistence and social harmony in the country.
And moving on, security agents today surrounded the Kwara State Stadium complex, Ilorin, in anticipation of the Revolution Now protest march scheduled to hold today across the country. With this development, sporting activities were halted this morning with the presence of heavily armed men of the Nigeria Police Force.
Athletes who have arrived at the stadium for training were turned by the stern-looking policemen. Many athletes were stranded in and around the stadium gates at the popular Taiwo Ibrahim Road in Ilorin. Speaking with our correspondent, the State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Ajayi Okansami, based on information that a purported revolution rally organized by the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, in the 2019 general elections will take off from the stadium.
You recall that Kwara State is known for its peaceful existence and the harmonious living we have in Kwara State. And to the best of our knowledge, the Kwara State Police Command has a duty to protect lives and property of every Nigerian resident in Kwara. And the protest which you are talking about to us is not permitted in Kwara State in the sense that they are claiming to go on revolution. And in order not to allow anything to truncate the peace that we are enjoying in Kwara State, we are doing that as a proactive mayor to prevent any breakdown of law and order. That is why you see security men at the stadium, because that is the point at which the supposed revolutionaries are planning to take off with their business. And that is why policemen are there, to prevent any breakdown of law and order.
And Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike is said to have banned the staging of Revolution Now protest in the state. The governor has also reportedly directed all council chairmen in the state to report any suspected activity in that regard to designated authorities. The directive is contained in a statement issued by the governor's special assistant on electronic media, Simon Nwakudu. Governor Wike made it clear that Rivers State is not part of the Revolution Now protest and whatever illegal agenda is sought to pursue. Rivers State does not subscribe to what the Revolution Now protest represents, and Rivers State is not part of the protest. He then ordered the security agencies in the state to arrest and arrange for prosecution anybody who gets involved in the protest. Apart from Governor Wike, the coalition of northern groups, CDNG, has also declared that those organizing the protest are carriers of foreign destabilization plots that are not in the interest of the North. The coalition urged all northerners not to take part in the protest. And the presidency has replied notable Nigerians opposing the action taken by the DSS in arresting rights activist and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in the February 2019 election, Omoyele Sowore. It mentioned the name of Soyinka in particular as one of the critics, saying that much as the administration had respect for him and others, they appear to be engaging in double speaking and blackmailing the government. The presidency, reacting through the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, noted that the same Soyinka would criticize the government for not taking actions against lawlessness, has now turned around to attack it when he took actions. They are calling out President Buhari and comparing him to autocratic leaders. This is unpardonable. blackmail that cannot stop the police and other law enforcement agencies from doing their work. The presidency added the Nigerian is by right empowered to call for a change of government using constitutional means to protest peacefully against government policies and decisions. But to call for the violent overthrow of a democratically elected government and president is worse and is not acceptable under any law in Nigeria. Violence will never be accepted again as a way to change governments in this country. Nigeria has a well-crafted constitution and elaborate laws governing elections that guide an orderly succession in government. We have a judicial system that actively serves as a watchdog of the people's rights. And President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the alleged sponsors of the revolution now to come out openly to be identified by Nigerians so that they would know where the sponsors stood. The presidency mentioned this in a statement on Sunday following the arrest of rights activist and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress in the February 2019 election, Omoyele Sowore, the convener of the protests. Buhari had said earlier on Sunday that elections remain the best way to change a government. He stated that he already demonstrated this by presenting himself for a democratic election in February this year, where his party, the APC, won both the presidential and National Assembly polls. The presidency added that much as the administration respected the right of Nigerians to hold a peaceful protest, a call for revolution was an incitement to violence. The statement, which was signed by Shehu on Buhari's behalf, partly read, "The President of Nigeria and his administration respect and uphold the right of every Nigerian to peaceful protest and civil campaign, whether to raise awareness on issues and even oppose the government. It is the inalienable right of all citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to do so. There is, however, a difference between a peaceful call to protest and an incitement for a revolution. Those making the revolution call hide behind the veil of social media modernity, but without revealing the identity of their sponsors. This shadowy campaign is no better and no more democratic than the days of old." The president calls on those who seek to use and hide behind everyday citizens to attain power through undemocratic and violent means, which has been allowed to come out clearly and be identified. They should leave their march in person. Only then will they begin to have the right to call themselves leaders before the people of Nigeria. And we'll go on this short break. More to come on the Revolution Now stories. Welcome back from that very short break. And joining us in the studio to shed more light on the Revolution Now protest is a human rights activist and legal practitioner, Frank Tietie. Barrister Tietie, you're welcome to the studios this evening, and we're hoping to hear a lot from you about this today. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure.
All right. And let's go straight into what we are talking about. It's about, of course, the Revolution Now protest, which is convened by the CEO of Sahara Reporters. With the ongoing Revolution Now, what is the protest all about, and why now?
Well, there's never a time that is appropriate for anything, particularly when it comes to social revolutions like this. What I gathered from Soare's intention and purpose for convening this kind of mass action, which he termed Revolution Now, is to wake Nigerians up to the reality of what he considers as misgovernance, what he believes that is the lack of appropriate response on the part of government to the teething problems that are facing Nigerians, especially the creeping dimension of the insecurity that has taken several toll on the lives of people, first in the northeast and then now facing people in the down southern part of this country. It's so palpable, and people are appearing helpless. They don't know what to do about it, and so it becomes like a social response to the helplessness that the populace is facing at the moment.
Okay, having said that, this brings me to my next question. You've almost answered it, but then, according to Raphael Adebayo, one of the conveners of this protest, he said something about it not being, a way to topple the government of the day.
It's, well, governments are usually afraid of mass action, and we saw not too long ago in the Arab Spring, in the wake of the Arab Spring in 2011, simple issues of protestations and marches and all of that leading to, a wave of insurrections and what we also, and governments being overthrown, beginning from Tunisia, and so going through, and then we still have the vestiges of such social mass actions in even the ongoing crisis in Syria at the moment. So a government that knows, that is in touch with the reality, realizes that there is a palpable possibility that there can be an implosion, there can be an explosion, there can be a mass action that will lead to, total lack of governance, and that can lead to a disintegration. And so the government will definitely respond to that. But you see, there are several ways in responding to such situations. It is rather than clamping down, rather than repression, there is need for positive response on the part of government, because the issues being faced by the people at this time are factual. There are things that they see. The reality is actually very hard on them. And
let me cut you in at this point. What is, going by what revolution, actually means? It actually means almost violent overthrow of the present.
Certainly not. No, revolution.
Government.
No. Said not. No.
That's what it is.
Historically, when you beginning from the Bolshevik Revolution, yes, French Revolution and the rest. You see, but the idea of a revolution, especially in the age that we are, it's in the real meaning of it, a turnaround. A change. So a government can, a set of people can actually legitimately campaign for a revolution. That is, we want to change the way things are going. We want to change things about insecurity. We want to change things about the paradigm of government. So revolution needs not be violent. It may be a term for action, but not necessarily violence.
Okay, not necessarily violent. Okay, since you've answered that, should a government of the day sit down when such calls are made? Especially, considering the fact that, they have arrested Sowore at this moment. Should the government of the day sit down, or should they take action?
The government, look, you must appreciate that the government is on its tenterhooks. First, it has been faced with a wave of security issues, crisis, going from the northwest and then that of the IPOB in the southeast. Northeast and then the southeast. Southeast in IPOB, and then. We recently in Abuja, before our very eyes, we saw a growing situation of a group that is transforming from a peaceful protest to something that resembles a violent scenario. And then when a government realizes, as a matter of fact, the government does have intelligence agencies that supplies pieces of information to it. Clearly, there seems to be a time bomb across the polity. And all that is required is just a trigger. It doesn't matter whether the trigger is original, it's fake, or it's opportunistic. However, the government, a responsible and reasonable government, does understand that the palpable situation that Nigeria is facing at this moment just requires a trigger to cause a mass action. So any semblance of that mass action, whether it is a sincere or a peaceful revolution, or a revolution that has a tendency of becoming an armed revolution, definitely the government will respond. But I will only have a problem with the kind of response the government has chosen.
Oh, you have a problem. Okay, so
I may have a problem with the response the government has chosen.
Okay, so what's the problem you have with that?
I believe in engagements. I believe the government is the big is a big entity in this whole thing. It has the army, it has the police, it has the intelligence community, it has the resources. Now, the government is able to provide solutions in the first place. So if there is an ingredient that is responsible, that is giving grounds for all of these protestations, all of these mass actions, and all of this, it is the government that needs to address those matters. And when it has reached a point when the government, protests and revolutionary leaders are gaining grounds in terms of social action, mass action, and all of the rest, the government must then step up to direct engagement. But a direct confrontation, a repression, will only make people popular, will only give credence to what they are protesting about. And that can be dangerous because it gives impetus to the whole process, and that can actually become the fear that they have. Right now, there is no fear of armed revolution. It's just a fear of passive resistance. I mean, there is just a possibility of passive resistance. But when passive resistance is met with unusual force, that can now transform into a possible armed resistance and armed revolution. And that's not what we want. We're not there yet.
All right. So, having said this, you think danger is looming because we have seen the beginning? Do you think something is going to, pop up at the end
as
of
a student of crisis? You see, there are a lot of things that are unpredictable, but there are patterns that when they have begun, it's just a matter of time. I've watched implosions happening in places like the former Soviet Union. We've seen how the people revolted under Boris Yeltsin against the Russian parliamentarians, and we've seen what's going on in Syria. We've seen what happened in the Arab Spring. We've seen things that happen in history. Now, we also seen the peculiar nature of our country, the highly diversified country, very wide. So it's not just that kind of a place where pockets of resistance can lead to a mass action, a general revolution. But however, something peculiar might happen to resolve all of this, because when there is always a complication, there is always ultimately a resolution.
All right, before we go to the way forward, there are visuals online and clips online, alleged, clips online and reports making rounds that, he was forced, that's the CEO of Sahara Reporters, was forced out of his house at an ungodly hour. Do you think this was called for?
You see, there are no limits in terms of the ways you carry out an arrest.
No, considering that
yes.
he has not even gone for the protest.
Yeah, well, that could be a preventive measure. But I also saw those clips, and I thought that, for me, if someone has not gone to the level of applying illegal force, and has not caused, that kind of unusual threat that would elicit, this kind of response, I don't think that force should be unnecessarily applied. The way and manner he was bundled, the Gestapo manner he was invaded at that hour was unnecessary. And you see, I would have even thought, and that's why I believe in engagement, the government would have made a proclamation to him, inviting him, come over here. What are you talking about? This revolution is unnecessary. What are the issues? You engage government, because government is made up of people. It is not an impersonal personality that you think it's against you all the time. It's made up of people, and most times the people may be incompetent, they may be informed, they may be uninformed, and they may not even have solutions. So engagement, in my experience, engagement with those who run government is important. And government knows that it also needs to engage with aggrieved persons, not by just wielding the big stick, because you are only excited exacerbating the issue when you decide to resort to force, and when you send that kind of message that, look, the only language that government does to people who have genuine protests, who have genuine agitations, is to clamp down on them, and then people will raise the bar in terms of protest. They might not be more civil, they might adopt other means in expressing themselves, and that can be dangerous for the polity.
So before we go, what's the way forward? What do you think is the way forward?
I have said it time and again, engagement. Engagement. And you see, the government engaged the Shiites, for example, kept on urging them, look, go to the courts, engage the system, don't just repress them. And then, you see, the government ultimately has proved that, look, we can actually allow the process to run, and then El-Zakzaky will be granted bail and even travel abroad for medical, checkup. But you see, when you engage these ordinary men and women, supposedly, who run government, I believe reason. Look at the entire entity. Look at the peace. Look at the interest that is in this country. You want to jeopardize that unnecessarily? On the part, government should be careful, and by reducing tension and not increasing tension.
Thank you very much, Barrister Tete. We really appreciate your comment.
My pleasure.
Evening. All right, moving on. According to Barrister Tete, his way forward should be engaging the people. We'll go on this very short break, and when we return, our news continues. Stay with us.
Uni ahoime fanguni enwome ati sojete fanguni iresu amuhi baki epezwe ati ameme worokame da shekura novede ibiraba beva sezoni ni isamuhi oneri odovide kura ame oneri saza esikameni avabani voneva sevore diaka iresu ibiraba be TV oneva save of down josile sokoko eturonone ibiraba be yafabe inyo ishehun dia novede.
Látòrí ìdárayá kí orí ọ̀dọ́, látòrí ọ̀dọ́ olóṣèlú títí dé orí ọmọ lọ́balọ́ba àti ìjòyè ra wọn. Ẹ̀kọ́ àti àṣà àti ìṣera. Ètò ẹ̀jáyé ìgbóra ó ti rá láti jẹ́ àmọ́ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní tẹ̀lẹ̀. Ní agbègbè ra àti àyíká ra nílẹ̀ ọkùn. Àgbọ́ra àwòrà níbi ẹ̀tíyàwó ra ètò ẹ̀jáyé ìgbóra àti mọ́rin gbogbo ní bẹ́ẹ̀ tẹ̀lẹ̀ àwòrà lórí rẹ̀.
Welcome back, and moving on, Kaduna High Court has granted leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, leave to go to India for medical treatment. El-Zakzaky and wife Zinat were absent during the ruling. Police had early tightened security in the Kaduna metropolis ahead of the hearing of the bail application of the IMN leader and his wife. Major roads in Kaduna appear empty of human and vehicular movements as police anti-riot vehicle was stationed along the Ahmadu Bello Way preparatory to the hearing of bail application of leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, aka Shiites, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife Zinat. The couple had been in detention since 2015. They had jointly applied for bail, whose hearing was fixed for Monday. Security agents had warned against any protest by anyone or group of persons on account of the Islamic cleric leader's court appearance. They also encouraged residents to go about their daily activities peacefully. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Yakubu Sanda, winner of the Pengana State constituency by-election in Basa local government area of Plateau State. Sanda polled a total of 9,222 votes to defeat his closest rival, Yakubu Busabuji of the People's Democratic Party, who polled 7,083 votes. We have the report on the by-election.
The struggle to fill the vacuum created in the Plateau State Assembly following the demise of member elected in February general elections was equally contested by 4 candidates across different political parties and held in 127 polling points across 7 wards of Pengana constituency. In the final result, the APC candidate Yakubu Sanda emerged winner with the margin of 2,139 votes with 16,523 votes cast and 1,870 rejected votes.
That Yakubu Yaksen Sanda of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
Although the voting exercise was orderly and peaceful, however, the turnout was low.
The population around here is largely Seventh-day Adventists, and we believe that once they are finished in church, which they expect to be around noon, many of them will go to the polling units to exercise their franchise.
We believe that our preparations and the actualization have been very seamless.
Members of some political parties who participated in the by-election expressed satisfaction with due conduct.
The people came out straight from the church and went straight to the polling units and were doing their voting.
We finished the election successfully.
With the successful conduct of the election, the people of Pengana now have a representative in the Plateau Assembly.
Moving on, the Bauchi State chapter of the People's Democratic Movement, PDM, has withdrawn its petitions filed before the state governorship election petitions tribunal challenging the election of Governor Bala Mohammed. We have more from the tribunal sitting.
The chairman of the tribunal, Justice Saliu Shoibu, granted the withdrawal of the petitions at the tribunal sitting in Bauchi. Speaking with newsmen shortly after the hearing, counsel to the party, Barrister Aliu Lemu, said, after wide consultation with relevant stakeholders, members of the People's Democratic Movement in the state decided to join hands with Bauchi State government.
It is the view of the PDM in Bauchi State that all they are after when they contested this election is the progress of Bauchi State and its people. That in the less than 100 days since Senator Bala Mohammed took office, visible changes, visible master plan is on ground to advance Bauchi State to a level of development.
Counsel to Governor Bala Mohammed, Barrister Ben Oche, expressed confidence that People's Democratic Party will emerge victorious at the end of the tribunal sittings in the state.
I think that has given us some respite, at least. We now battle from just one front instead of divergent fronts. Yeah. So I think we must say to God be the glory. The thing is now being narrowed down to only one petition, which of course God will also bring that one to an end in no distant time.
Barrister Aliu Lemu assured that the party will support and cooperate with the present administration for the speedy development of the state.
The Sokoto State Governorship National and State Houses of Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal on Monday dismissed the petition challenging the election of Yusuf Kadala of All Progressives Congress. Petitioner Isa Bashir Kalanjini of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) was defeated by Kadula of APC during 2019 election for the Tangaza Gudu Federal Constituency seat. Unsatisfied with the outcome of the election, Bashar Kalenjani, who was seeking a fourth term in the federal legislature, approached the tribunal challenging the declaration of Kadula as the winner on 4 grounds. He argued that the election was marred with irregularities and did not comply with the Electoral Act, while the winner was not competent to contest and did not score the majority of lawful votes. In his judgment, the tribunal chairman, Justice Peter Akihero, said the petitioner failed to prove the grounds raised in the petition with satisfactory pieces of evidence, as some legs were abandoned. The judge said malpractices and non-compliance with laws needed to be proved beyond doubt, and the burden was on the petitioner. Justice Akihero dismissed the petition and awarded 20,000 naira cost to each of the respondents against the petitioner. The petitioner had led 6 witnesses and tendered exhibits, while the respondent did not present any witness. He noted that the respondent not leading any witness did not amount to an agreement to the issues, as he had conducted cross-examinations and raised his case on some of the petitioner's submission. And President Muhammadu Buhari Monday says his administration will ensure better inclusion of all aspects of the society in the electoral process. This, he said, will help sustain Nigeria's democracy as well as help strengthen the electoral process. The president made this known while declaring open the 6th ECOWAS network of electoral commissions, ECONEX, General Assembly and Symposium in Abuja this Monday. He was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. President Buhari said that having passed the Disabilities Bill and the Not Too Young to Run Act, more policies on inclusivity are underway. The president added that Nigeria will continue to help strengthen the electoral process within the ECOWAS sub-region, having supported Sierra Leone, Liberia and Guinea-Bissau just recently. On her part, the first female vice president of ECOWAS, Finda Koroma, called on youths, women and people living with disabilities to summon courage and abhor fear while vying for elective seats. She believes this will spice up the political terrain of their countries. European Union head of mission to ECOWAS, Katil Kalsin, lauded President Buhari's passage into law disability and Not Too Young to Run bills. He said this has shown that Nigeria has improved immensely in her electoral process. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu, who is the pioneering chairman of ECONEC Steering Committee, is expected to hand over to a new steering committee chairman at the end of the symposium on Wednesday, August 7th.
I want to assure you of Nigeria's continued assistance, because credible election in our sub-region is not only good for democracy and periodic elections, it is also good for overall sub-regional stability. We cannot allow the failure of the political process to destabilize our countries to the extent that regional military intervention becomes inevitable, as it is unfortunately still the case in the sub-region. With the successful conduct of parliamentary elections in Guinea-Bissau in March this year, the next big step is the presidential election. I urge ECONEC to continue to work with ECOWAS by engaging all stakeholders in the country for a successful presidential election scheduled for 24th of November 2019 that will restore stability and eventually facilitate the withdrawal of troops.
With the support of OSIWA, the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, experts were commissioned to undertake a major study on the worrisome cost of conducting elections in the sub-region, focusing on 2 countries from each of the 3 linguistic blocks. For the Anglophone, we chose Nigeria and Liberia. For Francophone, we selected Benin Republic and Senegal, and for the Lusophone, we chose Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. A critical issue for the future of ECONEC is funding. While we appreciate the support of ECOWAS and the development partners, we agreed last year that each member country shall pay the sum of $5,000 per annum to support the activities of the network. I am glad to report that many countries have fully paid their dues for 2 years.
Challenges in ensuring equal access to all eligible citizens, regardless of their background, orientation, gender, and physical conditions, still remain at different levels. We must remain mindful that inclusive participation in political processes leads to sustainable peace and stability in the West African region.
It's about legitimacy, and it's about providing that voice to all the people of our nation. Now, if that inclusivity is not provided, then we risk undermining our democracy by the end of the day, and the continued stability and economic growth of our country and region. And that is why we're looking at youth, looking at the participation of women, looking at people with disabilities, and eloquently said by one of the previous speakers, also the marginalized poor people with disabilities, people coming from IDP situations. If we don't seek to have a full inclusive participation of these people, then fundamentally, by the end of the day, we risk undermining the very political platform that we have created with such a sacrifice by many politicians.
A 3-day training program aimed at providing greater protection for vulnerable people, especially those who suffer from sexual and gender-based violence in Borno State, northeast Nigeria, has commenced with a charge to participants to take active part in development of their communities. As our correspondent now tells us, the participants, which include 60 female police officers, are expected to be equipped with the right skills to enable them deliver on their mandates, which involves providing safer spaces for women and girls.
The police in the conflict context requires a deeper understanding of the dynamics of the environment, especially in addressing gender issues. Organizers of the Training Clean Foundation says the project will draw strength from the experiences of the female police officers on the field and the roles they can play in preventing sexual and gender-based violence and facilitate entry point for women and girls in Borno State to be part of peacekeeping and the resilience process.
We expect that policing in a conflict context is different from the regular policing. So it's important as law enforcement officers for us to have the right skills to be able to attend to reports, complaints that are coming from women, girls that are facing sexual violations in IDP camps and wherever this is happening within Borno State.
The training is coming at a time when there is mounting insecurity challenges, as well as multiple national and international reports of gender rights violation in the country, particularly in the Northeast. Former Commissioner of Police Emmanuel Ojoku is one of the resource persons.
Now, policemen who ought to have thorough understanding of all the laws have to have an understanding that a girl cannot be a bride, a young girl, child shall not be forced into marriage. And when an incident of rape occurs, let them determine there's no rape with consent. Consent means yes. When a woman says no, she says no.
The important thing that I take today is that I should take proper care. If any case of rape or violence against women comes to my place, I should know how to handle the case. And I should not play with it, I should take it seriously.
Since the liberation of many local government areas in Borno, the police, including female officers, have been deployed to stay with the populace, as well as to ensure the return of civil authority. It is against this background that the capacity building intervention for the female police officers becomes necessary to address the gaps. Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
The Progressive Governors Forum's peer review mechanism has ranked Edo State the highest among states controlled by the leading All Progressives Congress, APC. The ranking is based on the far-reaching reforms, initiatives, and programs of the Governor Godwin Obaseki-led administration. This is contained in the report of the June 2019 Progressive Strides Tracking Development Initiatives in APC states published by the PGF. A report signed by the Director General of the Forum, Salihu Mohammed Lukman, said the entries for this edition witnessed more improvements as regards developmental strides collated from the Forum states in 2019. The information collated was readily available on public platforms and same reported to the Secretariat. It said there was an all-round increase in the pattern of initiatives introduced by the states, with Edo State recording the most of the initiatives for the month, with 8 strides spreading across infrastructure, economy, agriculture, environment, sports, and capacity building. He noted that Nasarawa follows with 7 strides, Ekiti, Lagos, Ondo, and Yobe followed with 6 strides each. Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kwara, Ogun, and Oshun with 5 each. Borno, Gombe, Kaduna, and Niger with 3 each. Kogi has 2 strides, with Jigawa and Plateau have 1 stride each. The Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, in Katsina State has sealed up a fueling station in Jibia town and slammed a 22 million naira fine on it for diversion of 80,000 liters of premium motor spirit, as well as other unhealthy practices. DPR State Operations Controller Mohammed Sani, who led a team on the operation, said the disciplinary measure is to restore sanity and serve as a deterrence to other offending petrol stations.
Explaining their action, Operation Controller Officer of Katsina Federal Office of the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, Mohammed Sani, and his team, who stamped the station, says the office, through its distribution manifest, discovered that 80,000 liters of petrol was supplied to the station, on the 29th and 30th of July 2019, but was shocked to find out that it only have 7,000 liters in his tank.
We are here to see if the product is available. We know it is not. As a result, we are going to seal the station till when the product is available, or they should face the penalty. We have a penalty of 275 naira for every liter which they have diverted.
Apart from the diversion case, Sani says the team also noticed an unsafe practice where a generating set placed closely to the pumps was used to dispense the product, as well as selling fuel to black marketers suspected to be product smugglers from the neighboring Niger Republic. The operation controller and his team, in an effort to ensure safe and unadulterated product, requested the station in Katsina Metropolis, located around Aframplon area, to check its products as a result of heavy downpour witnessed earlier, but not without a word of caution to the management of the station.
There is no water in the tanks, and the products are safe, so people can buy it. The suggestion we can give is to raise their, or to make fortifications by the fence of their station so that water should not come in.
Sani and his team, while assuring the public of safe and adequate product availability, says the monitoring exercise will continue until sharp practices are brought to a stop.
And Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State has petitioned the South African government over the alleged murder of a Nigerian, Benjamin Simeon, in South Africa. Simeon, 43, a native of Okosi, Ohozara local government area of Ebonyi and resident in South Africa, was allegedly shot dead by gunmen in Johannesburg. Umahi, in a statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary, Emmanuel Uzo, and made available to newsmen in Abakaliki on Sunday, requested a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the gruesome murder of Simeon. According to Uzo, Simeon was allegedly shot by yet-to-be-identified gunmen on August 3, 2019 at Verona Street in Johannesburg, South Africa. Umahi, in the petition written to the South African High Commission in Nigeria, called for a full investigation into the killing of a Nigerian citizen with a view to unmasking the killers and bringing them to justice. The deceased was, until his death, a taxi driver in Johannesburg. He had dropped his passengers shortly before he was allegedly shot dead by his assailants. Umahi called on federal government to intervene in the matter to ensure that perpetrators were brought to book. President Donald Trump has said hate has no place in the U.S. after 29 where people were killed in 2 mass shootings over the weekend amid accusations that he bears some responsibility. An attack on a Walmart store in El Paso, Texas, left 20 dead, while 9 dead in a shooting in Dayton, Ohio. Trump said perhaps more has to be done to stop such attacks. Critics said that he was part of the problem, citing his anti-immigrant rhetoric and opposition to gun control. A 21-year-old white man arrested over Saturday's shooting in Texas is believed to have posted an online document calling the attack a response to the Hispanic invasion of the state. The motives of the Ohio gunman who killed his sister and 8 others on Sunday before being shot dead by police are unclear. Speaking to the media, Trump said mass shootings needed to be stopped as it has been going on for years in the country and it has to be stopped. He went on to link both attacks to a mental illness problem, saying the gunmen were very, very seriously mentally ill. Investigators have not made any comments about the mental state of the 2 gunmen. Texas prosecutors say the El Paso shooting is being treated as a domestic terrorist case and they are seriously considering hate crime charges. The gunman opened fire on a crowded Walmart on Saturday with an assault-style rifle and surrendered after being confronted by police officers outside the store. A mass shooting believed to be the 8th deadliest in modern U.S. history took place in a city where most of the population of 680,000 is Hispanic descent, in addition to the 20 fatalities 26 people were injured in the shooting. You're watching Clearview Television News. Up next is sports.
Night Concert is the secret of cheap viewing. All you have to do, just get your decoder, any free-to-air decoder at all, and tell the installer to track it to Night Concert.
So you get all your latest news from there.
It's not only that, entertainment, Hausa programs, sports, even news from the villa and plenty other things.
And I've been burning my money on that company from Southeast Africa or Northeast Africa or somewhere. I'll be back.
When are you going to?
To get my decoder, of course.
It's switch over time. Nigeria Communication Satellite, Night Concert. It is viewed in about 38 countries. No subscription. Just buy the free-to-air decoder. Be part of this, and you have access to Clearview Television 24 hours, 7 days.
Hello and welcome to the sporting segment of Clearview Television. Hamu Gutimeyi Tolulakpo Gutimeyi. The Nigerian government has sealed a partnership deal with airline that will convey the Nigerian contingent to forthcoming African Games in Morocco. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth and Sport, Olushola Adishade, said the contingent will move in 3 batches, with the first set leaving on the 13th of August. With less than 2 weeks to the kickoff of African Games in Rabat, Morocco, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Olushade Adeshola, has urged Nigerian athletes to put the interests of the nation first ahead of personal interests. Olushade said the athletes must realize that they need the nation just as the nation needs them.
I want our foreign-based athletes to appreciate the platform that the country has given them. Just as they need the country, just as the country needs them, they also need the country. And this ministry is doing everything possible within the funding constraints to meet their needs. So attempting to lay ambush or to strangulate the effort that unless this is done for us will not be appropriate. I have told them several times, we have provided for their training grant, we have provided for their return ticket, we have provided for village camp village allowances. All these have been done. This is the basic thing that the country will give to you. What you make out of it depends on you.
He went further to state that the federal government has gone the extra mile to make the stay of athletes comfortable, or with the arrangement of a charter flight to convey the athletes and making available their allowances.
But it's good for you to know the first batch will be departing on 13th of August because those ones will commence their sporting competition on 16th. The larger batch will depart on 16th of August. Then the final batch will depart on 21st of August. This is how we have phased it. And for the airlifting, we have secured the services of under a partnership with Messrs. Airpeace, who is airlifting the contingent to and fro. This is to ensure that we don't have problem with it. Oftentimes, government is not able to pay on time. Therefore, as the day closes, the cost of tickets skyrockets. But with this arrangement, we have been able to mitigate, and we know what our cost outlook is like.
Nigeria finished second at the last African Games in Brazzaville with 47 gold, 55 silver, and 42 bronze medals. Nigeria home-based Super Eagles will tackle Togo in the final playoff to the 2020 Chan Nations Cup in Ethiopia. The first leg will be played in the weekend of September 20 to 22 in Togo, with a return game in Nigeria a week later. The overall winners of the clash will advance to the tournament proper in Ethiopia, January. This was after Togo beat Benin Republic 1-0 on aggregate in the qualifying match at the weekend. The first leg in Benin was goalless before Togo sealed their qualification with a 1-0 home win on Sunday. Nigeria limited Benin to qualify for the 2018 Chan in Morocco, where they reached the final against the host. The Chan is reserved for players who are based in the domestic league. Meanwhile, ahead of the 12th edition of the African Games in Rabat, Morocco, Nigeria's Flying Eagles coach Paul Aigbogun has been reported to have listed the duo of success Mark Ojola and Emeka Chinozo among the 18 players that will carry Nigeria flag in our quest to clinch gold in football events of the competition. Especially former Iyiba Gaffer believe the duo can replicate the form that stood them out at the 2019 Under-20 African Cup of Nations and FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Poland. All eyes will be on Makojola and Chinozo following their scintillating form in camp since they joined the team. Apart from Chinozo and Makojola, Aegbo also named Rabiu Sukufilio Mohamed, Emeka Chinozo, and Peter Letu in the squad. Nigeria in the same group will host Morocco, South Africa, and Burkina Faso. The competition will run from 19th of August 2019. However, the football event will start on 16th with Flying Eagles trading tackles with Burkina Faso and the first match on the 17th by 8 p.m. Kano Pillars have expressed confidence they will go past Ghana Ashanti Kotoko in the CAF Champions League qualifier this weekend in Kano. Pillars will fly Nigeria's flag in the competition after they finished as runners-up in the MPFL last season. The Kano club have rounded up training stints in Kaduna ahead of Saturday's Champions League clash against the experienced Ghanaian campaigner with coach Ibrahim Musa saying they are ready for the challenge ahead. In Kaduna, Pillars played 6 test matches, winning 4 and losing 2. He said the matches helped the team to accommodate some new players they signed. In the meantime, the Kano State government will receive the victorious team tomorrow in Kano. Players and officials of Kano Pillars expected to be rewarded by the government after they won their first ever FA Cup after so many near misses. And that's the size of the package from the sporting segment of Clearview Television. I'm Oguntimehin to Lulakwa Oguntimehin. And that's it. Let's take our highlights at this point. Despite warnings from the police, organizers of Revolution Now protest on Monday went ahead with their march across a few major Nigerian cities to demand an end to social injustice and national insecurity in the country. A Kaduna High Court has granted bail on medical grounds to the detained leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim El-Zakzaki, and his wife Zinat to enable them seek treatment abroad. And as 29 people are confirmed killed in 2 separate mass shootings in the United States at the weekend, President Donald Trump has made it clear that hate has no place in the American society. And that's the news. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV, like us on Facebook via Clearview Television Online. Follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online. Follow us on Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Nightcomsat with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I'm Prudence Okonna, and thanks for watching.